My name's Warren Denholm. I run a aircraft restoration business in New Zealand called Avspecs. The company started off building P-40 Kitty Hawk aircraft and then moved into Spitfires and other aeroplanes from the era. But when the opportunity came along to do the Mosquito, to do something truly unique and build an aeroplane that nobody else had been able to restore up until that point, was definitely something special for our company. And so it took 6 years to build the first one. And the second one took us just a little over 4 years. And then this third one will be flying only 2 years after the second one. So with the greatest will of everybody, we will be able to shorten that time up again. The unique thing about the Mosquito is that it's an all wooden airframe. The de Havilland company had this idea that wooden aeroplanes would be a way of utilising an untapped resource in the woodworking shops around the UK that were, struggling to find work at the time. I guess one of the good things about building a wooden aeroplane is that the skills that are required to work with wood are exactly the same skills that a quality cabinet maker might have, a quality boat builder. There's a lot of sort of super yacht building goes on in New Zealand, and it's actually been very easy to find the people capable of doing the woodwork. When you tell somebody you're rebuilding a Mosquito, the form a queue at the door kind of thing, there's a lot of people interested in working on them because they're so unique and special. So the first one flew in 2012. At that time, there hadn't been another Mosquito flying since the mid-90s. So, we brought back something that there'd been a big gap in our community for the aeroplane, and it certainly was extremely rewarding to get it up and flying. We start off with a project that's ostensibly an individual aeroplane with history, and we can prove its provenance. So basically, when you look at a Mosquito, you've got metal ailerons, metal elevators, rudder, all the engine nacelle, landing gear, all the controls and all the systems inside the aeroplanes, all that stuff, all original. And at the end of the day, you're trying to restore a World War II aeroplane, and you want it to look and perform and respond exactly like they did originally. 20 years ago, it didn't really matter what it looked like as long as you could get it flying. And now, the most respected restorations are those that mirror that original wartime look. It's like it's just come off the production line in 1942, and not like something that's been restored in 2020. Well, one of the challenges with building an aeroplane that nobody else has worked on was finding the technical information, and also then finding the parts and materials. If you wanted a piece of Spitfire or a piece of Mustang, then there was a community already established. But with the Mosquito, because it had been an orphan, I guess, and nobody had been doing it, there was no go-to group, no bunch of collectors. So we had to sort of establish those connections for the first time. So I guess in a way, we were kind of pioneers. So we've had to establish that, and now we're the sort of go-to people for those answers. So in the Mosquito's case, there was actually more stuff out there than there might have been for, say, a Spitfire that had been under restoration worldwide for the last 30 years. We found new brakes and wheels for the first aeroplane we did, and it's almost unheard of in the sort of common build to find that kind of thing. But the Mosquito parts were still out there. It just took us a bit of extra time to find them, and then when you find them and you tell the guy, look, we're building one to fly, and grin comes on his face, oh yeah, okay, It's very important with these restorations to try and use as much of the original material as you possibly can. There's two sides to that. Not only does that make it a much more authentic product at the end, but it adds to the value. Getting certification for the aeroplanes made actually a lot easier by sticking to the original design protocol. We're trying to replicate exactly the way the production aeroplanes were built, and that actually makes our pathway through certification easier. Well, first of all, you can't build a Mosquito if you don't have the mould. You have to be able to build the fuselage off a mould, and without the mould you can't do it. And there's only one in the world, and that's in Auckland, New Zealand. So logically, once somebody's done it and solved all those problems, and you've had somebody put the investment in originally, why would you not use that? His major contribution has been in building the woodwork and, giving up all his
everything that he's given up to build the mould and make it happen before anybody like me or Jerry came along.
You know, we're down in New Zealand, it's a little bit isolated from the rest of the community. So, you know, we have to try and find something that you know, gives us a point of difference. And it's because the mosquito is a big job. And we're mindful of turning it around in a sort of palatable period of time. Yeah, we've got 14 staff actively working on the mosquito at the moment. Well, without patting myself on the back too much, I guess we're the only people that can do it. Well, the Mosquito is a fantastic aeroplane for being built in all sorts of different formats, I guess. It was originally built as a bomber and a photo reconnaissance aeroplane, and then got immediately modified into a fighter, and then a fighter bomber, and then a night fighter, and a trainer. So far we've done the fighter bomber, which was the first aeroplane and easily the most common. The second aeroplane we did was a dual control aeroplane, in other words a trainer for pilots. And then the third one is once again a fighter bomber. There's really only another 3 projects in private hands that could form the basis of airworthy aeroplanes. So that's probably going to be the limit. Well, these aeroplanes now, once they've been restored and go into a collection like the ones that we've been involved with, it's kind of like Shangri-La for an aeroplane. They're flown by very experienced pilots, and often only one pilot will ever fly the aeroplane until, you know, he may not be able to any longer. Now that there are dual control aeroplanes available, it would be possible to go and get a rating in one. But even so, you know, the pilots that have been flying them, whether they're civil or ex-military, have all got so much experience and so much understanding of how these things operate that it's really just a matter of they read the book, they get familiar with sitting in the aeroplane, and off they go. And they're operated in a very sort of soft and delicate way now, compared to filling them full of bombs and ammunition and roaring off to gun down the enemy. They're now sort of just pampered and played with. They get looked after so well, and they're treated so nicely because of their sort of uniqueness, that I don't see any limit to their life. I mean, they've all kind of fallen by the wayside over the last 70 years because for the first 40, you know, nobody cared about them at all. And they would sit outside in the weather and rot away, or, you know, just get chopped up by the scrap dealers and all the horrible things that happen to them. But once they get sort of rescued and put into this new environment, there's no reason why they can't go on for, I don't know, 100 years. Timber in itself is this unique product that doesn't have any kind of fatigue. So a wooden aeroplane in particular should go on forever and ever. Well, the first aeroplane was for Jerry Yagan, who has the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach. We'd done a couple of aeroplanes for him prior to the Mosquito, and we developed a good relationship and were working very well with him, and so he was prepared to you know, put his money on the line to go into this uncharted territory of rebuilding a Mosquito. So really we've got a lot to thank Jerry for making it happen.
Well, this lasted from 7 to 8 years, and it got into the millions of dollars, and nobody really got rich off of it. Warren and his team, they made a living. The people that overhauled the engines, they all made livings, but nobody became wealthy from it.
The second airplane was for Paul Allen, the Microsoft co-founder. He has a collection of airplanes called the Flying Heritage and Combat Armor Museum in Seattle. That airplane's the dual control 2-seater, so that's now flying in Seattle. And the third airplane currently is for Rod Lewis, and he has a collection called the Lewis Air Legends. So the Mosquito's going to go and join P40 and a Spitfire that we did for Rod, and then be in San Antonio, Texas. So we're sort of dotting ourselves around North America at the moment. Well, all of these collections that the Mosquitoes have gone into are active flying collections. You know, we see that the Mosquito is the feature airplane for a lot of these collections, and yeah, they get flown regularly. Mr. Yagan's airplane goes from Virginia Beach up to Hamilton, Ontario every year. It's a real plus for an airshow organiser to have a Mosquito appear because they're so rare and unique. We are a commercial organisation, and we have to make a living. We're also enthusiasts, and all of our staff are enthusiasts. We do our level best to keep a cap on the cost of these things and our margins to the bare minimum. because, you know, it's something we love to do. We want to see an aeroplane in the UK because all of our business has been with North America, and to have a showcase piece like the Mosquito operating in the UK should pay dividends for us as a company. And we want to see it connect, you know, back here in its home, in the home of the Mosquito. It needs to be here, and I can only imagine how fantastic that'll be here in England to, you know, put the Mosquito back in front of them and let them enjoy seeing it fly again here where it was born.